Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm in the midst of trying to recover from stomach flu, and I've been out of commission for this is the 4th day. So I'm just starting to feel a little bit on the mend, and I'm very grateful for that. I was going to try to come on here and give you some information that I think is pertinent to Donald Trump and what Israel sees him and his role. So we already know that Donald Trump is on the King Cyrus coin with his profile next to King Cyrus, the one who allowed the Jews to go back to Israel and rebuild the temple. And the coin has the third temple on it, and it also has Donald Trump, and it says they commissioned him to build me a house. So we're talking about the third temple. But what exactly are these rabbis thinking about Donald Trump, and how will King Charles III fit into the picture? Is it going to be one or the other, or are there going to be two people that they see as two messiahs, because they believe, you know, there's the Messiah, son of Joseph, and they believe there's Messiah, the son of David. So King Charles III, if he has the lineage of King David, he would be the Messiah, anointed one with the holy oil of the coronation. I'm going to try to get through a little bit of this, and I don't know how long I can stay on, but I want you to hear where they're coming from and the aspect of what the Jewish rabbis in Israel are actually thinking. And honestly, a lot of these ancient tribes and people that used to be prominent in the Bible, they are no more. They don't have any more descendants like the Hittites and other groups like that. They are no more. These groups were wiped out. So how they can come to these vast conclusions, you'll see in a minute, is beyond me. But you have to understand, this is the way they're thinking about Donald Trump over there. Now, this was written in Israel 365 News a while ago, and I wanted to look it up again, and I'm going to read this first. President Donald Trump, quote, is a reincarnation of the biblical Esau, son of Isaac and Rebekah, according to Torah scholar and international speaker Rabbi Mendel Kessin. At a talk in Jerusalem that lasted well over 2 hours, Rabbi Kessin laid out his Bible-based case that Trump has a singular role to play in preparing the world for redemption. He did not claim that Trump is the Messiah, though Rabbi Kessin said Trump is a Messianic figure, meaning he is connected to the process of moving redemption forward. Rabbi Kessin began his talk by quoting the verse from the Bible that speaks about the two nations that Rebekah had in her womb. One was Jacob, who through his 12 sons was the ancestor of the Jewish people. The other nation in Rebekah's womb came from Esau, who, as Rabbi Kessin explains, became Edom, which supposedly became Rome, which became Christianity, which became Western civilization. So, you know, you can't just include everybody as Esau, you know, in that, I don't believe. But in Genesis 25:23, it is written, and the older shall serve the younger. And you'll hear them saying this right now and today about what's going on between America and Donald Trump, and this is what the future holds. The older is a reference to Esau, and the younger to Jacob, or Yaakov. Though they were twins, Esau emerged first, as is plainly stated in Genesis. The first one emerged red, like a hairy mantle all over, so they named him Esau. Then his brother emerged, holding on to the heel of Esau, so they named him Yaakov. Yitzhak was 60 years old when they were born. Genesis 25 through 26. Now, that's why I don't think you can paint this with a broad brush and say all of these people in Christianity and Rome is Esau. Because first of all, I don't have reddish hair and I don't have hairy arms. Yeah, I'm just trying to be funny. But the Hebrew word for serve, as in the older shall serve the younger, is ya'avod. In essence, Esau was given the task of assisting his brother Jacob, but according to the Jewish sages, Esau had a second choice. He could either assist Jacob or enslave or oppress him, a concept expressed by the very similar Hebrew word ya'aved. Esau and his descendants were destined to have an important role to play in the process of bringing the world to redemption. But the choice for Esau and his descendants has always been Ya'avad or Ya'aved. Will they cooperate and assist the Jewish people, or will they enslave and oppress them? According to Rabbi Kessin, Esau had the potential to be the fourth biblical forefather after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He and his descendants have always been part of the process of redemption. At age 13, Esau decided on a path of sin and evil, and he and his descendants fulfilled his biblical mandate through enslaving and oppressing, rather than assisting and cooperating with the Jewish people throughout much of the last 2,000 years. However, with the election of Trump and what some others believe is the subsequent rise of Christian Zionism, that is all beginning to change, according to Rabbi Kessin. Although Esau chose sin and evil, he also had within him the potential for spiritual greatness. This quality is what Rabbi Kessin calls the Tov Sheb Esau, and the potential for good that was in Esau. And that potential, according to Rabbi Kessin, is represented today by America. You know, I feel like they're kind of just making it up as they go, you know. Trump's purpose on a spiritual level is to turn from oppressing Israel and the Jewish people to cooperating with and assisting Israel and the Jewish people. This potential has already been actualized with Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and his plan to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Rabbi Kessin predicted that Trump's presidential bid would be successful at the beginning of the primary season, when there were still many strong candidates vying for the position. The more powerful and prosperous America becomes under the leadership of Trump, the more it can assist the Jews and the state of Israel, claims Kessin. The stature of Israel will rise in the eyes of the world, and other nations will want to align with and cooperate with Israel exactly because America is behind it. Now let me just put in my 2 cents worth right here. I think it was extremely inappropriate timing for Benjamin Netanyahu not only to be able to speak in front of our Congress, but at a time when we just had Trump almost nearly assassinated. And there was barely any time between him showing up to try to get America involved in going to war with Iran. So this was not right. And we have to be careful that we're not thinking it's all good all the time with all of these people in Israel, because it's not. There's like there's corrupt Christians, there's corrupt Jews, and some of these rabbis that are of the anti-gospel spirit. Rabbi Kessin concluded this portion of his remarks with a spiritual explanation for the virulent opposition to Trump. The hateful rhetoric is a function of his Messianic mission, he said, in the source of the extreme opposition to Trump, because Trump is being used as one of God's instruments in rehabilitating the relationship between the biblical Jacob and Esau. Now you have to remember some of the evil rhetoric that was stated by some of the rabbinical Sanhedrin members was that they wanted to burn down churches, and they were spewing all other kinds of things about how the people in Gaza needed to be wiped out, and basically a genocide. So that is basically what's been happening, and that came from their own words, not from me. But let me point out how they always try to use Christians, and the abominations going on in Paris with the blasphemy at the opening of the Olympics. The Lord said he was going to come and remove all things that offend, that being some of it. So I just feel like this is a setup for the Christians to go in and do Israel's business and be the ones to die instead of them, because they kind of see Gentiles as sort of, I wouldn't say trash, but definitely beneath their role. And that basically tells you there in the first article. But in D.C. this week, Netanyahu should call on American Christians to restore Gaza. Couldn't believe this. Jonathan Feldstein. This is Israel 365 News, July 25th, 2024. And I just can't believe that they would even try to set up Christians to get involved so that the rockets fall on both of them. This week, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who's been in America to meet with President Biden, Vice President Harris, and speak to Congress, and he was here to thank the U.S. for its support for Israel in general, and specifically during the current war against Hamas. Talk about the unbreakable relationship between Israel and the U.S. as democratic allies with common values and enemies. He was talking about the righteousness of Israel's position in this war that was thrust upon them, and possibly without what the future of Gaza may be, the wider Middle East ought to be. Minimally, he'll talk about what the relationship cannot be, with the Iranian Islamic regime continuing to threaten Israel and the world, and the Iranian proxies of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis not being able to continue to threaten us the day after. So he's trying to get us and our American soldiers involved in a war with Iran to do their dirty work for them so our soldiers can die and not theirs. To send our Christians into Gaza, where Israel's been slamming them with rockets, and even rockets falling on schools and killing children and everything, with the excuse being that, oh, this is the war. Okay? So it's really a genocide that even the Sanhedrin group had spewed out that hatred that they needed to be eliminated from their own words. Netanyahu may or may not expressly mention or reject the two-state solution as the answer for long-term peace. But what he should call for, and the U.S. should widely embrace, is a bold solution that actually can bring a real solution for peace in Gaza, one that addresses the theological, ideological root of the problem rather than creating an independent Palestinian state governed by terrorists. The actual solution is a complete restoration of Gaza undertaken by Christians from America and around the world. It's a radical idea, all the more so as promoted by an Orthodox Israeli Jew. The core of the problem in Gaza under the Iranian-backed Hamas and embraced by most Gazans is an extremist Islamic ideology that calls for the destruction of Israel and the genocide of Jews. Christians, on the other hand, love Gazans and love Israel and the Jewish people. They are honest brokers who can restore Gaza with love and prevent a rebuilding of the culture of hate and terror. Christians have a tradition of going to some of the most dangerous and inhospitable places in the world to show their love and uplift communities. Gaza is ripe, the need is great, and the time is now. Well, you know, that Sanhedrin rabbi was speaking out all of this hatred against others, and even David Sheen, if you look him up, he speaks about what this Kahana group that's in Israel, and their ideology is very evil against other people that are Gentiles. But since the inhumane October 7th massacre by Hamas terrorists, murdering 1,200 people, including raping, sexually mutilating many, incinerating people, and kidnapping over 250 people, 120 of whom are still in captivity in Gaza, I have been troubled by the absurdity. So many posit that a two-state solution is the only answer. a panacea creating a Palestinian Arab state in a territory whose population as many as 3 in 4 of whom actively supports Hamas, even denying the Hamas massacre ever took place. Or, if they acknowledge it did happen, many find justification for and celebrate it. They subscribe to a genocidal theology that Israel has no legitimacy, that Jews are foreign occupiers, and they worship for the destruction of Israel and murder of all Jews. It's definitely not a solution that will bring peace. It's more of a two-state illusion. Today, fast-tracking a Palestinian state simply rewards Islamic terror with the message to, quote, kill enough Jews and get a state, end quote. The lack of peace is not for lack of the creation of a Palestinian state. Rather, it's due to Islamic intolerance at the existence of the Jewish state. That's what they mean when they chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. No more Israel, no more Jews. Well, that's never going to happen. Nevertheless, despite these realities, the world still reflexively calls for a two-state solution, as if it's actually viable. It's as if their foreign policy is directly out of the movie Argo, when the CIA Tony agent, Tony Mendez, there are only bad options. It's about finding the best one. At the time, the U.S. faced down its Islamic-rooted hostage crisis. The CIA official to whom he was reporting asks, "You don't have a better bad idea than this?" To which he's told, "This is the best bad idea I have, sir, by far. The current situation is not sustainable, but the answer is not to promote the best bad idea that will make the situation worse, legitimizing another terrorist state on Israel's borders whose citizens want its destruction and which has failed for decades. What needs to happen now is to actually achieve peace in and restore Gaza is a truly good thing, because they've completely annihilated it. Despite promoting the two-state illusion, even those who promote it acknowledge why it's not practical. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said as much. We're also going to have to defeat the ideology behind Hamas, and that is not something that can be accomplished on the battlefield. Ultimately, you have to beat that idea with a better idea. Palestinian Arabs need a change of heart. Creating a new terror state because there's no better idea is foolhardy and dangerous. Gaza does need to be restored, rebuilt from under the ground, where hundreds of miles of tunnels created a maze of terrorist infrastructure on up. The Palestinian Authority and moderate Arab states cannot be relied upon. They have been central to the kleptocracy, endangering Palestinian Arab through the smuggling of weapons that allowed Hamas to hijack and control Gaza to begin with. The actual solution for peace in Gaza requires Christians who will restore everything. Engineers, architects, and city planners, medical personnel, nutritionists and educators, people with backgrounds that can rebuild and create prosperity. Christians will succeed because they love Gazans and want to see them prosper and reject the evil Islam represented by Hamas and Iran. They will oppose a return to hatred of the terrorism against Israel because it's bad for the Gazans, but they will also do so because they love Israel and the Jewish people and want to see Israel live in safety, free from genocidal threats. And when the Christians show their love and genuine caring, Gazans will see another path, a better idea. They will realize that the extremist Islam, which they've embraced, has failed them. They will experience people with a relationship to the God of Israel and begin to realize that the people and state of Israel are not only not enemies, but essential allies. Ridiculous, crazy, perhaps, but there's no other feasible ideas. And it says, for details, visit solutionforpeaceingaza.com. So I just think it's kind of funny because, you know, instead of Israel sending their own soldiers, they try to get, the Islamic factions to war against each other. Well, now they're trying to get the Christians to go into Gaza and pick up their mess of their, destruction of all the architecture and buildings, and the place looks like a disaster. So clearly Israel's trying to use America trying to set up Christians to go into Gaza, where they've been firing rockets onto Palestinians in their schools and stuff, where they've accidentally missed with a rocket or whatever, and all these people are killed. So it's a setup. The whole thing with speaking in front of Congress is a setup to try to drag us into fighting against Iran and us doing a war with Iran so they don't have to do it. And this is just being used by people who think that Gentiles are nothing but fodder for the wolves. So let me just sum this up, and then I'll have to go. But I just was watching this one particular rabbi saying, "Trump, my Messiah." And, you know, we look at the Messiah as Jesus, and he's the one and only King of Kings and all of that. But the Jews don't see the same thing, of course. And they had different Messianic type of figures that were types and shadows of the Messiah to come. So they're just looking for a man and somebody here that's on earth. And if they believe there's two Messiahs, one of them will precede the next one, the one who will sit on the throne. And the one preceding the next one is setting it up for the redemption, which is kind of what they see Donald Trump's role is. Now, this rabbi also said in his statement he does not see that Trump's the Messiah, even though he said, "Trump, my Messiah." But he sees him as a messianic figure. So messianic figures included people like Moses. Noah was a precursor to the Messiah. They were considered messianic figures. King David. Anybody who brought some sort of victory, salvation to Israel and helped them out to achieve and become stronger and, you know, as a nation and all of that. So they can easily see Trump, you know, they see him as setting it up for the redemption. And to me, that says that he precedes the person that they will put on the throne as king, the one who will be Messiah, son of David, because they're going to choose the earthly king, just like they had Moses. You know, they're going to, you know, he was a type of redeemer and savior to them. So they're looking for someone that's like him that will allow them to, you know, have the Sanhedrin appoint a king, an anointed one. And of course, we know King Charles III is the anointed one in the coronation ceremony that claims to have descendancy from Queen Victoria's viewpoint, going back to the line of King David. And so I can see how if they see Donald Trump as setting the stage for their redemption and pushing it forward, that he precedes who they're going to put on the throne. So I don't think that they're going to make him the king or anything like that, even though they did award him a silver Torah scroll crown that I talked about in a video a long time ago. That is not the Messiah crown that is awaiting the king. The Messiah is a king according to the Jewish rabbis. And he's an official coronated king that has power and authority from his coronation ceremony to reign as king. So this is someone that has to be an official king with a coronation, with the anointing of the holy oil, which ironically came from Jerusalem and David's city of his lineage from Bethlehem. The olives were crushed there. So King Charles III was anointed with that oil. So they definitely see Donald Trump is playing a role in the redemption of the Messiah. I don't think that they see him as the Messiah unless they see him as maybe, you know, one of the two Messiahs. But we know that Jesus is both Messiah, the son of Joseph, and Messiah, the son of David. He's both. He was a son of Joseph. Pretty soon time will tell, but I just kind of want to clarify what they're thinking, how they see Donald Trump as a descendant of Esau, which I just don't know how they could just come to a big grand conclusion like that, because, you know, ancient tribes, they move around, and you just can't categorize everybody like that. You can't just say, oh, the whole Western Hemisphere, all of Rome, all of that is Esau. You know, you just can't label people like that. So this is where they're coming from. So they're waiting for all of that to fall into place. So anyway, like the video. There is a huge problem on YouTube with AI and bots, and they're stopping comments, they're blocking comments, erasing comments, and they're blocking subscribers, subtracting subscribers, and I'm not the only one having this issue. I've seen it on homesteader channels, and I've recently seen it being said that they're trying to interfere with people's comments. So please know that if something happens with your comment, don't go ballistic on me. We're all having to fight the enemy, and sometimes the enemy is the very one whose website we're trying to utilize to get the word out about the Lord coming soon. So anyway, please like the video. I really could use some support. It's been very slow in the last couple of months. It's been very bad. There's been very little support. What little support has come in has been a huge blessing, but I can't survive without my channel. And just so people know, somebody made a sarcastic remark about monetization. The reason why I had to finally put the monetization on there is because they wouldn't allow me to use certain features. I didn't have it all those years, and then they basically forced me to sign back up to, you know, see if I could get it and whatever. And I never put the ads in the middle of my video. Sometimes I just shut them off. And every time I did a Trump video, they reduced the amount of monetization you could get. But please know this, that they send me something kind of like at the end of the week or whatever that tells you what you made. I made $7.12 for the whole week. $7.12. So if you think I'm surviving on ad monetization, think again, because they rig it where you cannot prosper, especially if you're talking about Trump or things that they don't like you talking about. So anyway, I would just go for now. I'm glad I was able to sit down and put something together. If you'd like to help this channel, it's a kind of an urgent matter, you know. PayPal.me/KKROCOCO. And my donation address is Kimberly Ballard, Ballard, P.O. Box 246, Niwot, Niwot, Colorado is CO 80544. And I just thank you immensely for anybody who has a heart to help. And I'll see you later, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for any prayers that a couple of people prayed for me. I'm grateful for even one or two people. Thank you. I'll see you later.